Welcome to the Financial Planners South Africa podcast, a show dedicated to driving the positive evolution of financial advice, specifically in South Africa. To join a global community of financial advisors, sharing and learning with one another to drive the positive evolution of financial advice, head to xyadvisor.com. Portfolio Metrics is thrilled to bring you this podcast in support of our common passion for people and the evolution of wealth management. Our global business links precision investment management to expert financial advice through partnerships and technology. Visual, interactive, meaningful, productive. 4 values underpinning AssetMap, a financial planning platform loved by advisors and their clients. This episode is proudly brought to you by Alan Gray. They say it's important to live for today. Although that might be true, we can't forget to plan for tomorrow. There's a lot of it left, after all. Alan Gray is an authorized financial services provider. Visit www.alangray.co.za to learn how we build long-term wealth for clients. Good afternoon to another episode of Financial Planners South Africa podcast. And today with me, I have the pleasure to introduce Miss Hoskin, who might be a household name for a lot of us. But for those of us that haven't heard of Michelle, over to Michelle to give us a brief intro of who she is and what she's up to.
Hi, Louis. Thank you for inviting me. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. So I'm Michelle Hoskin, also known as Little Miss WOWW. I have pleasantly kept hold of that title for about 15 or so years, being quite new to the profession when I was only 20. So I'm nearly 25 years into this magical profession that we call home. Always been a coach and a supporter of financial planners and their firms. And fundamentally, Louis, the thing that I suppose that has been driving me every day since coming into this profession is this, innate desire to turn what are effectively financial planners who find themselves running practices into businessmen, businesswomen, business people that are actually running sustainable, repeatable, successful firms that are not killing them off in the process, and this total strive for professional excellence. And it's kept me out of trouble for quite a few years.
And there's actually so much in what you just said, from the part of like carrying on without killing yourself, and then also, moving to a profession and the service of excellence. I wanted to comment and say there's nothing little about you in terms of presence that you have and the contributions that you make. So I'm not sure why Little Miss WOWW. But
I know, yeah. Because I'm only like 5'2". I'm like a little pocket rocket. In the Netherlands, they don't call me Little Miss WOWW. They call me the pocket rocket. Pocket rocket.
The pocket rocket.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Can you share with us a little bit about Standards International, the services that you offer? I'd love to just unpack maybe parts of that and what would be beneficial to the South African audience as well.
Yeah, so obviously, we're a UK-based business, but we have had the privilege of working with financial planning firms and planners all over the world. So I think, when I've gone along the journey of developing this business, and there's now 11 of us in this team, we are very much focused on when planners and advisors say they want to achieve a certain thing in their practice, or they want to, restructure their business or achieve excellence in their operations, or, Standards International is the body that globally has set specific benchmarks in different sectors of our sector, and I'll talk about those in a minute. But ultimately, if you're going to do something, do it properly, and these are the standards by which they should be done against, like these benchmarks. So Standards International is a training, certification and consultancy organisation founded by me, what seems like a lifetime ago, actually. But we've only got a business that operates in financial services. So we've never been planners, any of us as a team. So it definitely gives us a unique outlook as a collective over the sector. So we don't think like financial planners. And a lot of coaches and consultants that exist in this sector are ex-IFAs. And that's, I think, not helpful at all, because it's the same stuff circulating. Actually, a different perspective is what's needed. So really, we help firms and planners who know what they want to achieve in business, but they actually have no idea how to get it, how to get there, how to achieve it, how to structure their businesses. So, we've got all of our work is benchmarked against these British and international standards. And then we effectively support, train, and assess firms, planners, paraplanners, and compliance departments in line with these standards to make sure that they're meeting them. Obviously, the subject of our topic today is this piece around financial abuse. And more recently, we introduced a certification training program for planners and advisors who want to increase their skills and knowledge in the area of spotting and supporting clients who are experiencing or maybe experiencing economic abuse and financial abuse and other areas like coercive control. Because it's a huge skills gap in the sector globally. The stats prove that financial planners and advisors have no idea how to spot or even support clients who should and may have fallen victim to this horrific type of abuse.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're kind of lifting up these advisors and giving them the skills, but also, creating a global body to benchmark your practice against. What would be the typical size of a business that would come to you and, or like, what is the process that you would take them through? Do you kick the tires and say, hey, this is broken? Or you just say, hey, here's your framework and let's start building towards that?
Well, it's, in terms of, so we call it internally a sales process, but actually it's just a journey. So, this morning, I've had a guy on the phone who runs a tiny little estate planning business with his brother, and really he just needs a bit of the word I use is a straightener. Like, typically a planner will come to us or a business owner will come to us and say, I just know it's not working, like stuff's not happening the way it should, or, the team aren't happy. And especially with COVID more recently, Louis, obviously we've had, firms who have had to deploy staff all over the country, all over the world. I had a firm who had his practice manager in Dubai, stuck in Dubai on holiday and couldn't get back into the UK, like this kind of thing. So, what the pandemic has actually done, and this is why we're super busy at the moment, particularly, is because firms and business owners and planners have realized that their businesses are not set up correctly. So, often it's literally like, I know this is not right, but I don't know what to do about it, because they're trying to run these businesses. So we have the first part of our process is we have a WOW workshop, and this is just a open event. We've got one coming up on the 7th of July. Open event. We do it at our cost. There's no charge to the advisor, because I want them to all come and I want them to send their teams as well. And it's a real whistle-stop tour through, what does best look like? If you're going to do something, if you're going to run a practice, these are my top concepts that I want to share with you. And I run those workshops. And then, many, and this is a wonderful thing, many are able to then, dive in with their own support teams and crack on and make some of these fundamental changes. And I'm super happy with that. Like it's we give this away as a gift for a reason. It's because we want the reach. And we've had advisors from South Africa, from Australia join. And in fact, we've got probably the majority of the bookings for the July workshop are Australians, which is quite ironic given the fact that it's like the middle of the night for them. But anyway, and then we would do what we call an 8 principles review, where we go into their businesses and we literally pick it apart. We literally find out go into every nook and cranny to see what's happening, why things aren't working, with the simple objective of, most firms will experience lots of symptoms, issues, dramas, problems. What we aim to do is, once we've understood what those symptoms and problems are, we then look to roll those uphill to find the root cause of them. So our advice then our solutions that when we apply are to fix the root cause of the problem, so the symptoms don't ever happen in the first place, right? Which is just logical if you think about it, but a logical concept which is missed by many. And then we move on to, we've got a WOW program where it's a 2-year business transformation program for planners that are really serious about transitioning their business from woe to wow, to really get them kind of kicking off on the right foot, whether they be looking to exit. And then we've got our certification services where we literally train and assess firms against these sector, international and British standards. And it's gone crazy busy because of mainly COVID, and they've realised that there's more to life than being chained to your desk, just seeing clients every day, and they want a sustainable business, and they realize they don't know how to do it on their own. And that's when they come to us.
Yeah, what a wake-up call this pandemic has been, just to say, hey, let's figure out how to balance this. I'm wondering, like, do you see the same theme repeating in terms of maybe the owner's mindset, or people sabotaging their own business, or what are the common things that are repeating that business owners should be on the lookout for?
Yeah, and actually there are, and these 8 principles, this review that we do, it was several years ago now, but I'll tell you the kind of backstory to answer that question, and then I'll give you the number one killer reason this is a problem. Several years ago, I went into a firm and I sat in the reception, and this is when I was doing one-to-one coaching specifically. Now I just do the workshop stuff. And I sat in this reception, and there was a cabinet to my left, which was full of awards. I'm not joking. It was like Bling City. Like, there were gold ones in there, glass ones, silver ones, shiny ones, black. I mean, it was full. And I sat in this reception thinking, what on earth am I actually doing here? And I had like a bit of a crisis of confidence that I was having a girl day, or I don't know, but I was having a bit of a crisis of confidence.
Imposter syndrome, here we come.
Like, honestly, like I was still just sitting there looking at these awards to my left going, what am I doing here? They must have this stitched up, right? And I went into the boardroom and sat down with the business owners. And as I do in my way, my opening is, so how's it going? I always open my first meeting with, how's it going? And these guys had brought me in to have 2 days with them and all their teams. And I swear to you, for the first hour and a half, it was like they just puked up on me. Like, they gave me every issue. Like, it just kept coming, honestly. And I sat there and I never said a word. I was just writing the stuff down. And what I effectively realized was that there was some root cause problems. And every single issue they told me they had, I linked it back to one or more of these 8 principal areas that they needed to tackle. But the fundamental problem of all of that, which is always the killer reason, is planners who run businesses need to get out of their own way. And that's because, as a job, if you think about what they do, they charge into the lives of their clients, making dreams come true, making all these dreams and aspirations a reality, and getting these clients to retire early and all these wonderful things. And that same kind of knight and nitrous in shining armor approach, they think they can apply to their own business, but they have no idea what they're doing. So what makes a wonderful financial planner doesn't make a good business owner. And they miss that a lot. So, when I talk about, how do we turn an industry into a profession? We turn a profession into a business. That's how we're going to do it. We turn an industry into a profession, then into a business. And then, we'll crack it. But it's them getting out of their own way and stop feeling, that they can fix all their own problems, because they don't know how to run businesses, but they know how to be amazing financial planners. And it's a lifetime's worth of work. This is what we do every single day, all day, day in, day out.
It's so interesting. Is that a lack of training, or is it a lack of being too close to your subject, or kind of trying to project?
It's having too big a ego, Louis. It's ego. Like, we're a very male-dominated sector, and unfortunately, ego rules. Ego is the enemy in our sector, and you only have to, hang out at a conference to see it, right? But ego is a bit of a problem, and planners mainly, and actually female planners are often equally as bad, because they often feel like they're the alpha female and they have to do it as well as the boys. And what they do is, they're not very good at asking for help. They're so used to being asked for help, you having all the answers, you coming up with all the solutions, that when their team members go to them and say, well, what do we do here? They try and cobble together some strategy or solution to transition their business, or, change the way that things are working in operations or HR. They haven't got a clue what they're doing. So yeah, it is a lack of skill, but it starts with this position of, well, I'm a planner. I can do anything. I've been told I'm amazing. I've got the qualifications to prove it, but I have no idea how to run a business. So without being really brutally honest, that is quite honest, but that's what we're dealing with.
Yeah, it's a bit of a reality check. Actually saying, what are your strengths? What are your skills? Where can you make the biggest impact with your time? Because I guess, that's, like you said, the skill set that a financial planner has versus a CEO of a business
Yeah.
Two very different skill sets.
It couldn't be any more different.
Those two.
Yeah. Absolutely, Louis. I mean, honestly, it couldn't be any more different if it tried. You know, one's relationship driven and one needs to be commercially driven. Totally different. Like it's like this. It's like an identity crisis. But yeah, it's a huge problem. I mean, there was one time I sat on a panel and I think I was having a bad day actually when I got asked this question. But the chair of this panel said to me, you know, when are we actually going to see some real change in this sector? And I literally pointed to the audience and said, when this lot die off. I think I was having a bad day, but the point is still valid. Like, unless this new generation really kicks in with, you know, some real innovation and this willingness to gain help and seek help, we're going to just keep going around in circles.
Yeah. And are you seeing that? Are you seeing a new generation, people approaching things with a more commercial hat on? Or is it really get out of the way and, you know, hire someone to actually do that job and do it? It's
a mixture. I think what you've got, honestly, if I break it down, so let's imagine you've got the children of financial planners taking over businesses. So let's look at that sector. Yeah. Most of the planning practices that they're taking over have been run by a man, you know, a male planner. And therefore, there's a little bit of, I'm going to prove to dad that I can do it like he did. Okay, there's a lot of that going on. There's a lot of, well, dad put the hours in, so I'm going to show him. It's almost like the child that's proving something to dad. There's a lot of that going on. And it breaks me when I see it, because the decade or the generation that dad lived in and dad developed a financial planning practice is totally different to the one that's being done now. Often in that scenario, you know, we as a team get brought in by dad, for example, because dad's going, I clearly didn't do it right, so I want to help the children get it right. So we've got a lot of clients who are family-run businesses, and we've been brought in by dad, and we help and work alongside the next generation, the children who are taking over the planning practice, to do it right first time. So they don't have to try and fuffle their way through for 25 years to try and get to where dad got to, right? They're doing it right first time. But then there's the kind of the ego's been passed down to the next generation of, well, I'm dead smart and I can use tech, so tech's my answer. Tech isn't the answer to running a financial planning practice. There's a whole heap of other skills and abilities needed outside of tech. But, you know, this next generation is thinking, well, I'll just throw a load of technology at it and digitalize everything. That's a recipe for disaster as well, because that's not going to work either. But then you've got the youth that are saying, actually, that model that's just been for the last 25 years is totally broken. I'm going to redesign the whole flipping lot, and I'm going to do it based on my authentic way. And those are the ones that, whilst they need help, they are the most authentically run financial planning practices that I've seen in this generation. And I love them. I absolutely love working with them because they're so open and receptive to it. There's no ego at all. It's like, I want to do this. I can see it. I have no idea how to do it. Can you help us? And they're the best ones because we nail it. We nail it together. It's a collaboration.
Oh, that sounds so interesting. Like these firms that, you know, you mentioned the authenticity and shining through. I'm thinking that, you know, the approach to building a business and actually then taking it from an existing business and scaling that is two very different skill sets that you also require.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the things that planners struggle with is being tough. And, you know, they could walk out of an amazing client meeting, you know, regardless of the generation. You know, and if you think about it, you know, we talk about different generations just there, Louis. Like if we take, you know, the generation of the now 50, 60-year-olds who are running firms, there's only one reason that they have got the success that they have got, and that is absolute ball-breaking sheer hard graft, hard work. They've missed their children's events. They've probably got broken marriages. You know, they've missed holidays. They've been working on Christmas Day. It's been sheer hard work. And the generation that's now emerging has seen that and has actually gone, nah, I actually want a life. Like, I don't want to do that. I want to be there for my kids. I want to go to school events. I want to be there for my wife and my partners and my husbands or whatever it might be. And so they get to this piece around having a lifestyle business. So they build it, but having a lifestyle business that's centered around you, and, ultimately there's the leader in that business as the owner. They're only then making decisions based on the best interests of their lifestyle. Okay. It's quite simple. It's a simple model. But then they go, oh God, I need another advisor, and I need to hire a power planner, and I need to this. But then the problem is that they then still try and run it like a lifestyle business, and you can't. There's a key that needs to be turned at a certain point, and this is where we help our clients, like, to turn that key and say, now we need a different structure, because it needs a different approach, a different mindset, a different methodology, because that methodology of a lifestyle business will not survive or help in the new business model mentality, approach, and so on. So it's a mental shift, but it's also a physical and operational shift as well. And this is, we know that through all the work we've done over the last 20 odd years. And that's how all of our services are positioned to help firms through that transition, because it's hard on their own. It's like when they help clients with their financial planning, right? Clients that try to do it on their own make a right mess of it. But when they've got a planner helping them, it works, and they retire early.
That clarity between deciding what is it that is most important to me, and like, how do I build something around that, or do I build a bigger legacy through business that lives through that?
Well, and you know what, and also, Louis, I mean, you've interviewed lots of amazing people, and you'll hear it a lot. I don't want a big corporate business. Well, why not? Well, I don't want to have to deal with all that people nonsense, that recruitment and HR and legal stuff. Well, if you run your business well, you won't need to deal with issues. It's like root cause symptom. So many are preventing themselves from benefiting from their successes and their abilities to be amazing as planners because they don't want to become a corporate. And if I had £1 for every time I don't want to be a big business, it's rubbish. Because they're so fearful of, it's crazy. Like, I'm scared of, I'm not a people manager. I don't want to be doing all this HR and people issues. Well, that's fear motivated. They're capping their own potential based on a fear that isn't real because they've not been there yet. It's only what they've heard, or the stories that they've been told, or it's craziness. It's a lifetime's worth of work, Louis, honestly.
Michelle, you've been talking a lot about, giving yourself the permission to be able to think of a bigger life, like to dream past what you actually think is possible. Can you share with us, where that came from and kind of what that tipping point was where you decided, hey, this is something I want for my life?
Yeah, one of the, I've had a wonderful life. I've been so lucky. I've got a great family. I live away from them. I moved to London from the north of England when I was just 19. So I was a very independent young lady, and I was brought up that way. My dad and my mum would always encourage me, if I wanted a job, to phone up and get it. If I wanted a paper round, if I wanted babysitting jobs, go and get them. So I've been brought up to be very independent, and I think that's the key and first magic ingredient to living a life that you really want. Because, I was always taught, and I teach this, that, if you want something, you have to go and get it. And I think people who have an expectance of, well, it's that person's fault, or that person's going to help me, particularly in firms where there's business partners and they have this huge expectation of the other. It's like, well, he's going to do that. Well, why should he? If you want it, you get it, you go for it. So, I was, and I have a huge amount of confidence. So I think this has given me the best position to kind of go for my dreams. We'll talk about that in a second a bit more. But one of the turning points in my life was I was actually watching Coach Carter movie with Samuel L. Jackson in it. And there was this quote in there in the movie, and I actually thought it was a Nelson Mandela quote originally. And it was when Timo Cruz in the movie says, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are more powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. And it was like I'd been hit by a bus, right? Honestly, I remember being in my living room in my old house, and I was like, that's it. That is what I am meant to be doing in this profession. Because planners and advisors spend all, if not most, of their waking day changing the lives of clients, encouraging them to live bigger lives, more exciting lives, retire early, do the cruise. That actually they themselves have become the poor relation, and their lives, their relationships, their dreams and aspirations have taken second place in place of those of the clients. So it's then become, everything that I've designed in terms of our programs and our work is the enabler for them to encourage them to not only achieve those goals and aspirations, but smash them out of the park, so that, that they literally scare them to death. The things that they're setting in their mind to do is so scary and so they just cannot comprehend how to achieve it. And I just come swooning in with the team going, well, this is how you're going to do that. It's easy. It's going to take you 2 years, and it's these 8 modules, and that's it. Job done. And then
You've taken away all the excuses.
Really? Yeah. So yeah, and I have this, when I do my little presentations and my speaking gigs, although it's been from my dining table in the last so many months, but people will say, like, I feel like I can achieve anything after I've listened to you. And that's the little Miss WOW magic. That's the thing I do. And my girlfriends and my mum friends and my family, they feel the same. So you've just got to go for it. We've got 100 years if we're lucky. If we're lucky on this planet, you've got to just, live and achieve every little dream you want. Big, small, ginormous.
So this was part of you growing up, your parents giving you that permission, saying that you can actually achieve this. And also, I'm guessing, through experiencing, hey, actually, if I apply my mind, then I can do this. And I wonder if there's two sides of that. Like, what about the times that it actually, maybe doesn't go your way? Like, from the outside looking in, it looks like you exude confidence, but I'm sure there's been times where you said, hey.
Oh God, I mean, I've had my own battles. I mean, I've reasonably come through it unscathed, and I'm a very bouncy, feisty, crack on with life kind of girl. But I've been talking today, and I've publicly spoken about it. Like, there's been days during the last 2 years, COVID as well, where I've literally really had to scrape it out of the barrel. Like, I've really had to pull all the stops out to just think, come on, let's just put a bit of lipstick on, let's just go for it, because it's been hard. So, I mean, this is where I've been getting involved in training towards mental health certifications and such like, which I'm sure we're going to talk about. But I think, I think over the years, without opening another kind of can of worms, because this is a whole other interview, right? But, I've gone through phases in my life where, I've believed that I've been too much for people. Like, I've had a few relationships fail, just tricky times. And I've always put it down to a limiting belief that I'm just too much for people. Like, and I know I am. I know I'm a lot to, I'm a pocket rocket. I'm a lot to kind of handle. But then I realized a little while ago that actually I'm nowhere near enough. And even for those that I might be too much for, people need more of what I've got to share in their lives. I went to have my hair cut this morning, and my hairdresser, he said to me, do you know Katie? I said, yeah, I know Katie. I said, we met for a coffee. It's this local artist near where I live, and we'd messaged on Instagram, and she came round to my flat for a coffee and a croissant. And he said she phoned me after she'd been to your house, and she literally said, oh my God, Felix, I feel like I can do anything being with Michelle. She was only at my house an hour, right? She was literally at my house an hour, and she's like, I feel like I can do anything. And he said, and I was like, oh my God, did she? And he said, yes, because that's because you're a power pill. And given the last few months that we've had, people need a power pill. And so I think I've realized that, to be authentically me is my superpower. But that's not always been the case. But I think, I've had firms on the phone to me, business owners, practice managers, power planners, and they're going through tricky times. And, for a while through COVID, we did these WOW webinars on a Wednesday morning for our client families. And we really included everybody because, by goodness, they needed it. So I am confident and I am independent, and I am on a mission to change the world one advisor at a time, and I will not be stopped. And it's likely that, the work that we're doing today, the true fruits of our labor as a team won't actually be realized until way past my lifetime. So what we're doing now is we're planting the seeds for a profession that doesn't yet exist. And we're starting that movement, and that we're, people who join us as clients are joining that movement to become businesses which will really sustain our profession in the next 20, 30 years, which is why, just having a decent client journey and a fee planning proposition is not going to change the sector into a profession. It's just not. It hasn't worked, and it's not going to be the thing that does it. So still work to do.
I think it's about this, community that keeps everyone accountable and pushes them forward. And with you right on there with a lot of other people, that share the same vision. I want to jump into the mental health stuff. It's something that's quite close to home and that I have an interest in as well. And, seeing the impact of mental health and just how difficult it is to spot. Talk to us a little bit about the training that you're going through, where that fits in what you're busy with, and I guess what you've learned from that as well.
Oh gosh, I mean, so what originally prompted this was I lose the grips with timescales. So apologies if anyone's listened to the story before and gone, I'm sure she said that was 2018, because I forget timescales, right? So a few years ago, I got an email from my team to say that this particular advisor had very unusually cancelled all of his arrangements with us. Now, he was having training and he was doing standards with us. And one of the team said, I don't think he's okay. And that was all she said to me. So I got on the phone straight away. And I said to him, what's going on? I said, how are you? He said, I'm not doing very well at all. And I said, why? He said, well, can I speak openly with you? And I said, oh my God, of course you can. This client has been a client for like 11 years. And he said, I plan to take my own life in April this year. And let's say this was the June. Well, the first thing that struck me was, how did we not know? Why were we not in touch with him enough? And oh my God, thank God he didn't, right? And well, I explored the conversation further. And basically, he'd had pressures of the regulator. We'd had RDR. Obviously, we've gone through, and the light's at the end of the tunnel for us, and we're way past that now. But he'd gone through a really tricky time. Relationship had broken down. He'd been working every hour God sent for years. Didn't know his children. It was a mess, right? And we talked about it, and I said, "Why did you?" And he told me the exact date that he was going to take his own life. And I said to him, do you mind me asking why that date? And he said, because that was the day after the life insurance, the suicide clause was lifted on my life insurance. Well, I was in bits for days, Louis. Like I was so sad for lots of reasons that I just thought we need to do something about this. So then there was other stories. And then I got shipped over to Australia, where literally, because of the Royal Commission and the changes over there, and financial advisors were literally jumping off bridges, literally taking their own lives because their commissions had been pulled. They were in all sorts of debt, and there was like 40 odd deaths in a space of 6 months. It was just off the scale. So the AFA brought me over and said, look, we want you to give them a light at the end of the tunnel, to give them some hope. And I'm just like, fabulous. I'll do that. I thought, I'm good, but I'm not that good. I'll see what I can do, right? I'll do my best. So I went on stage and I said, there's an elephant in the room, and that's called suicide. And my job here is to make sure that we don't lose one more person in our magical family to suicide. And then I went off on my presentation, and the room are just like that. Right? And I thought, I've just got to go for it. I've just got to confront this head on. Well, since then, I've been doing a lot of work, training myself, and the team are also training to be mental health first aiders. I'm currently in the process of doing a youth mental health course, predominantly because I have a daughter. My daughter has friends, and I've done the adult course and the youth course, and I'm also going to be training to be an instructor so that we can actually train our teams, our clients' teams, on mental health provision, spotting signs, and these fundamental conversations. And life has never been more crazy than it is today. We've both got a physical life and we've got a digital life. So we've now got two lots of lives running simultaneously. And there was the course I've done, part of the course this morning was around suicide. And the quote is basically, when life and the pain of life see if I can, yeah. Suicide is not chosen. It happens when pain exceeds resources for coping with pain, right? Now, that's the ultimate. If you take your own life, and we've had planners take their own lives, it's because it's just too much. Well, every part of mental health is basically a shrunk down version of that. So if you can spot it early. So one of the things that I've been encouraging all financial planners to do, advisors, is to become certified mental health first aiders. So that when their clients are having changes in behavior, strange words being used that are just like, why did they say that? They know how to deal with it. And then that work led on to the work we did with the certification for financial abuse specialists, because we were recognizing that a lot of planners were, when I was talking to them and I was talking about mental health, they had no idea how to spot it or what to do about it or where to signpost their clients. And I'm just like, this is horrendous. Why do you not have these skills? You know everything about pensions and investments, but not about people. It just made no sense to me. So then I started talking to planners about, what happens when, money is a root cause of mental ill health, maybe in financial abuse or coercive control or economic abuse. They were oblivious, Louis. They had no idea what I was talking about. So I was just like, we need to do something about this, which is then when we launched the training and certification for planners and advisors to become financial abuse specialists. So again, they know how to spot, identify and signpost their clients and their families who may be victim or being subjective to some sort of economic or financial abuse. And we've got clients all over the world doing that. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. But yeah, it started as a passion project, but it started because of a need that, we recognized we didn't have certain skills that we needed. And it turned into training programs and support for planners and advisors to be able to just be more amazing at their jobs. And possibly, I've had 3 suicide interventions since doing the adult first aid course, 2 strangers and 1 friend. And, I've been able to I was equipped with the skills to be able to approach those conversations. And, I may have saved a life. I may have saved all 3 lives. I don't know. Right. So it's a big, there's a lifetime of work to be done. But planners need to have the skills to head these things off for sure. Does that answer the question?
I can't agree with you more. And I think it's not necessarily intervening and making changes, but, helping someone to normalize it, number one, to start talking about it, but also to reach out for help. In South Africa, and I think globally, there's the Lifeline organization that helps financial planners and the general public, teach them skills, firstly about personal growth, and then some of the counseling skills to potentially one day become a counselor to help people through mental health and suicidal ideations. And I think, the impact that you can make and that you're seeing that you're doing with these financial planners and the conversations that they're having. The stories that you must hear must be amazing.
They are, and I'm a very opinionated young lady. I know I am, and there's a huge amount of there's a train hurtling through financial services, which is we're all about financial well-being. Financial planners being taught about financial well-being. It's not that. It's not just that. It's about economic well-being, and it's about helping that person become and understand that whole person, not just understanding their money. And there's all these planners, running around the UK saying that they're financial well-being experts. Many of them aren't, sadly, because they don't have the all-round skills to be able to understand the well-being needs of their clients. And, one of the, I bounce in these Facebook groups when, they're chatting about, what's the top skill of a financial planner and all this, that, and the other. And one of the things that I typed in a few months ago was, seek to understand before you seek to be understood. And so many planners fail at that epically. Like hands down, they're just rubbish at that, because they're almost listening to be ready with a solution. They're listening only to give them a recommendation, and they're listening only to sell them something. And that that's a broad generalization, but many don't have the skills to listen without judgment properly. And I remember that just quickly. I went to a $1 million round table meeting in the States a few years ago, and the keynote speaker of the 3-day conference was, I think it was a guy teaching 15,000 financial advisors the art of listening. And I sat in the audience going, wow, like, are we at this level still? Right? Really? We're still at the level that all these people need teaching how to listen, not how to sell, but how to listen. Listen properly, listen without judgment, listen by making eye contact. You know, we're still there. We think this profession's progressed. We're still being taught that. If you put that into context, that's off the scale crazy, right? Off the scale crazy.
There's a lovely term called exquisite listening, which just kind of encapsulates all of that. And it's something that you need to learn, right? It's not just something you wake up one day and like, oh, okay, now I can listen and keep quiet. It's more than that. It's listening to what's not being said. And that's part of, you know, I guess the journey of talking to people, saying like, where do I start? Like, what are the skills? So if we jump into the financial abuse training that you're doing, like, are there skills that financial planners need before they start doing that? Or, you know, is it base level enough for people to jump in and say, oh, okay, this is a good place to start learning about financial abuse?
It's base level. It's base level, and we actually scale it up. So the training is about 10 hours, 10 to 12 hours, depending on, and it can be a bit more if you want to learn slowly. I mean, I did it over 2 days because I became the second person in the world to be certified to this certification, and I did my own assessment and my own workbook and everything. I didn't get any help from the people that had really kind of worked on the back end design, and I did it over 2 days because I really wanted to soak it in. But it can be it's very much with very little knowledge. There's a lot of case studies in there, scenarios, quizzes, to submit some of your own processes and approaches. And it's a real tearjerker because some of the stories that people that we've interviewed for the learning material is quite deep. And I think it's an eye opener more than it is anything else, because you almost finish going, really, that exists? Really, that type of behavior exists? I mean, one of the stories was a lady called Marie, and she was like in financial services. She was like a high-end broker, super successful. She ended up being smashed over the head with a ratchet and locked in a cupboard in her boat. She lost all her money because she was subject to effectively financial abuse and domestic violence from a partner. And she was like, you would look at her and think, well, you've got your head screwed on. Well, no. This is not it just happens to the poor, housewife or the vulnerable at home. It's not. So it's a real eye opener. And, I did a little LinkedIn live the other day about it. A planner had contacted me through social media and said, I've been spoken to by a client, and she's opened up that she's being financially abused. And she said, and I've just spoken to my compliance department, and they've just said nothing other than phone the police, right? And I'm on the phone going, are you flipping joking? Are you for real? And I know that that's the response that planners are being told, because their compliance departments, their networks have no idea how to deal with it. So the training helps with that as well. And I said to her, let me just tell you, given the situation that you have just told me about, if you'd have phoned the police, she would now be dead. Very simple, uncomplicated, but she got that advice from her compliance manager. Now, this is what we're dealing with in this sector. They are being confided in about money issues. It's rife within post-separation. So when husbands and wives are, relationships are breaking down. Now in the UK, economic abuse post-separation is now a criminal offence. Most of the advisors in the UK don't even know about that. So if they're, without realising it, partaking in negotiations that might not be as ethical as they'd like to consider them being in a separating relationship, that's now a criminal offence. So it's a huge piece, and this is why the training and the certification exists. But as planners ascend through the process of learning more, and there's an annual assessment at year 1 where they have to submit further evidence of where they've helped in cases of financial abuse, and then it's every 2 years thereafter. There's more learning materials going on the portal and the platform for them to increase their knowledge, and CPD, and because it's an ever-changing landscape. But it's become, and COVID has just made it even more commonplace because of issues around money and lockdown. And there was a wonderful quote that was on billboards across the UK, and it says, abusers always work from home. And it didn't say domestic violence abusers or it's abusers. They always work from home, right? And we were in a global pandemic and we were in lockdown. So yeah, so it's a huge subject, Louis, huge. And I'd be very happy to do, a specific podcast with you on it if your listeners would be interested, so we can really nail in on some of the signs and the symptoms of financial abuse and how to spot it and obviously to support.
Absolutely. I think in South Africa, it's still something that's in its early days. But as we start talking more about it, I think, we can push this industry forward. And other than your medical professional, financial planners probably get more face time with their clients in a more safe environment where people can start having discussions about what's really important, what's going on in their lives. I mean, we're really well suited to spot these things. So can you imagine the impact, like once we can actually spot them and then take people to the resources that they so very much need?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I had a conversation quickly with a planner at the beginning of lockdown, and I said to him, are you phoning your clients to see how they're doing mentally and their well-being? He said, that's not my job. I said, well, if it's not your job, whose job is it? I said, do you care about your clients? Oh, yeah, of course I do. I'm like, well, why aren't you phoning them to see how they're, ask them, how's your well-being? How are you feeling? Well, that's a bit touchy-feely, Michelle. He said, I don't have conversations like that with clients. And I'm like, well, somebody's got to, and you're the one that holds all their money. And they're worried about money. So therefore, so there's a lot for us to learn in our sector, and training like the stuff that we pump out and the materials, it's just invaluable to them. Yeah.
Yeah. I think even just the specific wording that you use, someone once said, asking someone, how are you doing today, is a lot more digestible, for someone suffering from mental health problems or going through a traumatic event. Yeah. I can deal with today, but I don't have to deal with, the bigger picture. How's life?
Because generally we're okay. But you're right. That it's, one simple word on the end of a sentence, which, how are you? Which we all ask all the time, pretty much, changes the dynamic of the sentence and could be the difference between somebody opening up and you being the savior to some of the challenges that they're having, or them just saying, yeah, I'm okay, thanks.
Yeah,
just one word, but it's the training. It's all about knowledge that the sector sadly doesn't quite have yet, but we're working to change that.
It's brilliant. I mean, it's so exciting. Like, where can people get hold of you to find out about the training? Like, what's the best place to go and scratch and get a bit more info?
Well, you can search for me all over social media. So I'm on LinkedIn, Michelle Hoskin. I'm on Instagram and I am on Twitter and Facebook as Little Miss WOWW. So you're more than welcome to dive in and find me there. Or the best place to get all of the information and downloads and details of our WOW workshops and our events and our certifications is at the website, which is standardsinternational.co.uk, and have a little browse around there. You can also subscribe to our mailers on there, and it would just be a delight to connect with as many of you as possible, and see if we can help you in any way that you may have identified areas that you just might feel that you're just not coming up to scratch. Happy to have a chat.
Thank you so much, Michelle, for the work that you're doing, promoting the positive evolution of financial advice. And if this wasn't it, then I don't know what is.
Thanks, Louis.
Until we chat again. Bye-bye.